Leah George-Wilson is the chief of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. The nation will appeal the proposed expansion, and the chief joins me now. So, Chief, what is your appeal based on?
It's based on the consultation process being inadequate.
And how was it inadequate?
We engaged in the negotiations with Canada in good faith, but they came to the table. They didn't have a strong enough mandate. They had compressed timelines, and there wasn't real engagement on the issues and solutions that Tsleil-Waututh was putting forward.
And what are those?
Well, our concerns are scientific around the oil spills and how Canada doesn't have enough science, and Canada agrees that they don't have enough science around how dilbit will act in fresh or salt water. We also have the noise threshold for the southern resident killer whales, which are protected by the Species at Risk Act. We don't know if the threshold has already been met because there hasn't been a study. So that needs to be done. They're going to add 400 more tankers to the inlet, and that will increase the noise, and we don't know what the threshold level is.
So what do you make of the fact that on one day the Liberal government declared a national climate emergency, and then the very next day they approved this expansion project?
I would say that if you did not know what irony meant, you do now.
That is what the NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, he was pointing that out. So what is your message to the government and to the Prime Minister?
Our message is that they didn't have to make the decision yesterday. They could have extended the deadline, so these scientific studies that their scientists agree need to be done could have been done. And then they could have made a more complete decision with all of the facts. They needed to revisit their economic reports that the NEB did in 2016. Economically speaking, the landscape has changed, so they need to revisit their old data.
Now, the Liberal government they'll say, look, we did consult properly. We did give this a lot of thought. We are not like the Stephen Harper Conservatives who, in their opinion, just sort of tried to ram these projects through. What do you say to them making that distinction and saying that there was proper consultation this time?
There was consultation. I don't know that it was proper. I know that it wasn't meaningful. I know that Tsleil-Waututh came to the table in good faith, but Canada didn't come with enough mandate to talk about the issues that concern us, including the science around the oil spill, including the science around the noise threshold for the southern resident killer whales, including the impact on climate change, including the economic factors, and not to mention the infringement on our Aboriginal rights and title.
So what's the mood in your community, given that this project is, the government says, is going to be built?
Well, our community understood that this was going to be likely the decision, and we're ready to consider and seek our legal response. Use whatever legal tools we have available, and that would be judicial review.
Are you hopeful about some of those legal tools or legal next steps?
Well, I think because Tsleil-Waututh's obligation is to be the caretaker and the steward of the land and the water in our territory, we have to be hopeful.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about your territory and why it's meaningful to you, and why you have these concerns about the environment. Tell me more about that.
Our people have lived in and along Burrard Inlet since time out of mind. Mm-hmm. Our people have always been here. We started here. We've been caretakers of the land since the Creator put us here. It used to be, our elders said, when the tide went out, the table was set. The table's not set any longer. We cannot harvest from the beaches as we once used to. We're surrounded by a sprawling metropolis.
Leah, George. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yep. Sorry, you can finish. You can finish your. Yeah, you just cut out for a second, but you're back. You can finish that.
And that's what our job is as a people, is to protect the inlet for not only ourselves, for the people who live around us, and for future generations.
Leah George-Wilson, appreciate you taking the time. Thank you very much. She is
Thank you.
She is the chief of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation.